It all started with another family camping trip. My brother Andy, my parents, Aunt Laura, my Uncle Ben, and I always planned an annual camping trip to nearby mountains. Every year we would hike a bit higher and walk a bit farther. This year we went up about 10 miles and halfway around the mountain to a grassy fat land. It was pretty nice, quiet, and unmoved by the urban life. Just a few miles down the road, the only part I didn't like was there was no actual bathroom. So if you needed some quiet time in a John, you needed to take a shovel and hope you didn't pick up poison ivy. It was getting closer to sundown. The camp was all set up, and the fire was crackling in the center. I had the greatest urge to take a piss, so I told my mother I was going into the trees for a moment. She told me not to go too far, and I nodded and to show her I understood. Then I left. I walked into the collection of trees, moving just far enough to see the light. Last thing I wanted is one of my family members just peering behind a tree, causing another one of those awkward moments in life. Once I was on empty, I fixed my pants and planned my way back. But as I was just about to as I was about to fuck. Okay, shit. Once I was on empty, I fixed my pants, planned my way back as I was about to caught something nothing caught the corner of my eye. I turned my head and and upon a few feet away there was a girl washing her legs off. I was curious. I walked over. She had pitch black messy hair and these two pigtails. She didn't look much older than me, maybe 13 or 14. She wore a torn, pleated uniform dress, but no shoes. Her legs, her legs were covered in bruises and cuts. Hey, I watched her finish wiping her legs off with the water and stand straight up. She slowly turned to me. Her black bangs were long and overgrown. My name is Reuben. I smiled at her. What's yours? A fog rolled in while she stood there silently. Then, once I could barely see the trees behind her, I heard her whisper, Lulu. Lulu? Oh, that's a cute name. So where are you staying? I looked around. It was almost impossible to see anything. Not that, not only that, but the sun was starting to go down. I can take you, she muttered softly, taking my hand. Her skin was smooth, even with the bruises, soft and plush, but so very cold. I was quiet for a moment, confused if I should go with her or not. I gave her a smile shortly after and agreed to follow her. We walked on the dirt path that was cluttered with dead leaves and fallen branches. At the time, I was only concentrated on her and not the fact that she was walking blindly into fog, like it was an everyday task. The foggy forest dimmed as the sun descended. She managed to lead me to an old abandoned two-story home as the fog thickened even more. She and I sat on the porch to watch the darkness. Aren't you afraid? You know, of living out here in the woods alone? I look over the quiet, shoeless Lulu. She hugged her bruised knees and kept her eyes hidden. Not really. Even with tall men, killers, and monsters on all fours, I'm never scared. No one visits me anyway. She explains as quietly as she's spoken her name. I was surprised at her response for a moment. I thought her crazy, but then again, she's probably been here for quite some time. So, where are you from? A very far away place. It's very dark here. I don't like the dark very much. Bad things happen there. She trembled for a moment, and then we sat in silence. Why do you cover your face? I asked after feeling a chill down from the cold air. I don't like people seeing my face. More eerie silence rolled in with the wind. Then I cleared my throat. When do you think the fog will let up? I will need to get back to camp before my parents get worried. I looked at her and she stood up. Something felt very strange about her suddenly. A sad, demonic feeling overwhelmed me. Are you hungry? She asked, walking to the door, falling off its hinges. Yeah, I stood up as well, ready to follow her inside. She walked in the house. I followed inside. It was a very well-kept, bare home. There was barely any furniture, let alone dust. The windows were clean and the couch looked soft. Hell, there were even lights on the kitchen area. I sat on the couch, which was nice and soft, and despite exceedingly aged upholstery. She entered the living space with an old chipped plate and a bowl of soup, and a shiny silver spoon. She set it on my lap and went to get me a napkin and disappeared up some steps. I sat alone eating my soup. It was sweet and warm. And went down well. It had a deep red coloring with clear signs, vegetables floating. Then she set it on my lap and went to get me a napkin, then disappeared on some steps. I sat alone eating my soup. It was sweet, warm, and went down well. It had a deep red coloring with clear signs of vegetables floating about. I ate, thinking of my parents. I had been out for a long time, and we didn't walk that far. Shouldn't my parents be calling my name? I should be able to hear them from here. It was weird, ever since the fog rolled in. I dismissed my thoughts after the soup was done, and my eyes became drowsy. I set the plate bowl and spoon on the single table in the room and lay on the couch. My only thought was about the girl who disappeared in the house as I drifted to sleep. I was awoken in the darkness by a loud scream below. I shot up from the couch and looked around. There was nothing but creaking boards and a howling house. I listened for a few moments to the eerie silence of my house. I looked over at the table, then turned my position, noticing the dishes were gone. Lulu must have taken them. I closed my eyes, surrendering to the sleepiness. As I drifted back into my landscape, a loud thud came from below. I shot up again, this time. I stood certain this wasn't my imagination. What if Lulu was in danger? She seemed to fail to fight off anything that could have wandered in. I needed to make sure she was okay. I then carefully maneuvered my way around the dimly lit home. I ran into a bathroom, a bedroom, a closet, and then a basement door. I touched the knob of the door, and this eerie chill slowly ran down its way down my spine. I was reluctant to open it, but thinking of Lulu, I forced myself to turn the knob and open the door. Behind the door there was a darkened stairway. Strong, cold, foul wind came up the stairs. I coughed a few times from unsuspecting sounds, then took a few steps down. I then descended to the basement, with the full smell stronger. My stomach began to churn, and my eyes watered. It smelled like there was something a lot like lying down in the basement, rotting. At the bottom, I found a switch, and I flipped it. The basement was now fully illuminated, or at least this part was. At the corner of the room, there was another door, covered in brown dust and brown rust color. "Lulu!" I called out, looking around. There was no answer. I was starting to get worried. Where could she be? "Lulu!" I screamed louder, more anxious than before. I hurried over to the door in the corner of the room. I grabbed the handle and swung it open. "Lulu!" I stopped. What I had seen in that room made me lose everything I have eaten. There was an entire room with bodies, rotten, decaying bodies, just lying there. I saw men, women, and a few people my age sprawled about the floor, even hanging. The one thing they all had in common was their faces. None of them had eyes. There were only empty sockets staring in through me. I couldn't handle it. I backed away from the door and bumped into something. I slowly turned and there stood Lulu, just arms and legs all covered in blood. I looked horrified. I thought she was so sweet. I didn't think she could. I couldn't even fathom the situation. I was just wishing this was all a bad nightmare. That none of this was real. "You've seen too much." She looked up at me, her hair moving from her face to reveal nothing but smooth skin. She had no eyes, not even open sockets. Your face." I backed away from her even further, tripping over tools spread on the floor. Her hand touched my smooth surface. "My eyes, I can't see them right now." She flashed a small smile, if she were embarrassed or even happy. "But I have them." I was frozen. My heart was thumping in my chest. I could barely breathe. Then she moved all her hair from her face, smearing the blood from her hands. "See?" The skin around the non-existent sockets began to tear apart and bleed. She started to look so sad, so hurt. After a moment, she had deep, empty sockets. "Now that you've seen it." She reached out for me and smacked her hands away. "Get away from me, you fucking freak!" I shoved her out of the way and clumsily ran in the dark stairs. She followed. "You've seen too much," I heard her voice echo behind me as I ran out of the house into the foggy woods. "Give me your eyes." I looked back and saw her standing on the porch. I didn't stop until I tripped over a branch and fell on a small inch line. I managed to break my arm on a rock, making me scream in agony. The bone clearly poking me from a small spot on my arm. Within a moment, she was sitting on my chest, her hands inches away from me. I kicked and rolled until she was off, then made my way onto my feet. She kept yelling for my eyes. I kept running, blood spurting from the small opening on my arm. Then that's when I noticed the pond. I had just met her there at the pond, which means my parents weren't that far away. I found the tree I pissed on, and then the embers from the fire. I ran as hard I could and stumbled into the camp. My family had jumped on my entrance. I suddenly looked dizzy and tired from running. I looked around and saw my mother. She was so worried. The sun's light illuminated the camp, and the fog was gone. I relaxed for a moment, feeling safe, and then I closed my eyes. I woke up in the hospital, my mother standing above my bed. I had a tube in my arm and a cast on the other. She leaned down to give me a kiss on my forehead. "I'm so glad you're all right. You leave for 5 minutes to use the bathroom and you come back with a broken arm and cuts? Now how'd you manage that?" "For 5 minutes?" I slowly sat up. "I was gone for 5 minutes? But the girl, the fog, and the house and the bodies." "Honey, there were no houses at our campsite, no girls, and certainly no fogs." I was at a standstill. I was in the fog. I saw the girl. She had touched my hand, fed me, and those bodies. How? I had checked out at the hospital by the time it was 11 o'clock. I made my way home with my parents. A fog rolled out, but that was normal for the nighttime around here. I had set my alarm clock. When I got to my bedroom, I lay in my bed. I yawned, closed my eyes. I started fading out. The house was quiet. The image of the girl was clear in my mind. I took a deep breath as I heard her sob. "Give me your eyes." New headlines. 7th gruesome suicide. Boy takes his own life by removing his own eyes. Bleeding to death, his parents found him early this morning lying on his bed, deceased. His eyes have never been found.